You're going to go to the Loyola homepage. You can put in /T4. You could also do a search for T4. We're also in the AZ index. Go to /T4. It will take you to the Terminal 4, which is T4, landing page. And T4 is behind the firewall. So in order to access the T4 login page, you're going to have to, use Global Protect and Loyola Secure Access. You should always go to the landing page first. If for any reason T4 is offline or if we're experiencing problems, we'll post a notice here. Occasionally we have to upgrade. Sometimes there's a issue that we have to fix. So any notices will be posted right here on the home page. So go ahead and click on the T4 login button. This will actually take you to the login screen. If you look at the URL up at the top there, you'll notice it says CMS4. That's short for Content Management System, Terminal 4, blah, blah, blah. It's your Loyola ID and password. You will not automatically have access to T4, even though it requires a Loyola ID and password. We have to import your Loyola ID into the system. That's why I mentioned at the beginning of this demo, if you need access to T4 and you don't currently have it, send me an email and let me know what department you will need access to. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And if you can't get to that login page, that means you're outside the firewall. Now, because I'm an administrator, I get to see everything in T4. We have over 300 sub-sites underneath the luc.edu domain. Additionally, T4 also pushes out to the Church School of Medicine website, ssom.luc.edu, and also the Health Sciences Division, HSD. You will only have access to your department. And it's possible to have, depending on who you are, you might have access to more than one department. In this case, we're going to be using my division, Information Technology Services, as sort of a sample site today. So I'm going to come down here and take a look at Information Technology Services. Now, pause here for a moment. Over on the right-hand side, you can see a color-coded columns, green, yellow, red, or green, orange, red. You can ignore those. Those are supposed to indicate how many active, pending, inactive sections you have, but they're in fact not accurate, so you can just ignore them. Now, once you get in here and you see your department, you can expand your directory structure by clicking on the little plus sign here. T4 is a little bit slow. If you see this little, churning wheel here, that means it's loading whatever it needs to load. Now, when you expand the directory structure, right away, I'm going to point out that there's a couple of different things to notice here. You'll notice that we have a bunch of sections here. In T4, we call just about everything a section. You'll notice that some of them are shaded dark gray. Some have no gray shading. Some are even orange. Anything that you see as orange or yellow, depending on your color perception, is going to be considered pending. That means it's in T4, but it's not actively publishing. So that's a little color-coded flag for you. You'll notice up here right below Information Technology Services, it says About ITS, Team Support DMS. And if we expand one of these, say, if we expand Teams, for example, you can see lots and lots of stuff below that, and you can see sections nested within sections. Now, what I'll point out about the dark gray shading is anytime you see that, that's a flag to you that that section or page is part of menu navigation. And what do I mean by menu navigation? If you look at the ITS home site, you'll notice the drop downs here about ITS, Teams, Support, etc. These are all part of menu navigation. So if I click on About ITS, you can see the menu navigation repeated over here on the left-hand side. Even if you drill down several layers, you're going to see more and more submenus. Same thing with Teams. Lots and lots of things on the drop-down menu here, and then also on the menu navigation here. So anything that is dark gray shaded will be part of menu navigation. Of course, it begs the question if it's not part of menu navigation. So for example, underneath, underneath Service Desk, we can see a lot of sections here. Some of them are part of the menu, some are not. If it's not part of the menu, how would people get to it? Typically, if it's not part of the menu, it would just be linked within a bulleted item, or it might be a link within a paragraph of text. Particularly large sites such as ITS or Human Resources or the School of Law may have 500, 600, 700 pages. And obviously, you're not going to have a drop-down menu with 300 pages on it. It's not a good idea. So typically what you want to do is you want to have on your drop-down menus, your menu navigation, the most important pages, the pages that people are looking for, okay? Or whatever you think people are looking for, okay? And in addition to pages, and again, we call most of these things sections in T4. In addition to pages that are there but not part of the menu, you also just have supporting sections. So underneath Service Desk here, you can see things like RSS, which is for an RSS feed. You can see things like Twitter, home left, home center. So these are all sort of supporting sections that are part of a larger page. So right now, you don't really have to worry about that. So now it's just taking a look at Teams. So you can kind of click around and drill down within your department site. And again, anything that is orange means it's pending. So let's say that I wanted to edit an existing page. So let's say under About ITS and say under Green Team, I wanted to edit the ITS Green Team page, okay? And so what I can do is come in here, open up Information Technology Services, and then open up About ITS. And I'm going to go ahead and close up this long thing here, and I'm going to click on Green Team. Now, Green Team has some subsections below it. But let's just go ahead and click on Green Team itself. And the easiest way to edit a section here in T4 is just navigate down and click on it. Now, you could go way over here to the right-hand menu, and there's an action menu here that has pretty much everything you need. And that's also totally fine. So you could come over here, go to the drop-down menu, find Edit Section. But honestly, I think for most of us, it's easier just to click on it. And when you click on it, it's going to take you automatically to the General tab within that section. So these are all just ways to access components and settings within T4. I'll point out also that you always kind of have a breadcrumb trail up here at the top to kind of remind you where you're at. So if you look up at the top here, you can see it says Home, Loyola, Information Technology Services, About ITS, Green Team. Okay, so this takes you to the General tab. Okay, there's really no content here to edit. What you need to do then is go to the Content tab. So this General tab, Content types, page layouts, but you're almost always going to be going to these two tabs. By default, it will take you to the General tab. Then you remember I need to edit content, so I'm going to go to the Content tab here. And notice here, there's multiple pieces of content within the page. It says About, it says Next Meeting, Current Programs, and it says Last Modified. Last Modified is just a code that gets added to every ITS page. We're not going to worry about that. So if we look at the Green Team page, you can see it's not a very big page. So it's got this promoting more sustainable IT practices, and it's got a photo in there and some text, next meeting. So if we go ahead and click on About, and here's the thing, when you have a page that is set up with multiple pieces of content, sometimes you're going to have to poke around and figure out which piece of content you need to edit. It's not always clear. Some pages will be really, really long, and they'll just all be part of one piece of content. Here's a situation where you have a very small page and it's separated into 3 pieces of content. And when we create a page from scratch a little bit later in this demo, I'll point out that this option, when you're setting up your page, you can always just have it all on one piece of content, or you can divide it up. For a page this small, I probably would have just kept it one piece of content. I'm going to go ahead and click on About. So here's a very basic little piece of content. We're in the editing screen now. So you got a blurb of text here, and you have a photo image embedded in there, and then you have a little line of text and an email link. Now, a couple of things to notice in here. Right here, it says content type. Okay, page content only. That just refers to the kind of template this is using. I'll come back to content types a little bit later, but when you're creating a page from scratch, you have to choose your template that you're going to use. And there's multiple templates in T4, but the most common one is this template. So basically, it's the name up here refers to the name you're giving the content piece in T4. It doesn't refer to the page name. The page name is Green Team, okay? And that's named over here on the general tab. Right here, so that just names that piece of content. Then notice the subheading, promoting more sustainable IT practices. Okay, that's right here. So subheadings are optional, but anything you put in the subheading field will be in bold font. It'll be slightly smaller than the page name. And then, of course, right below that is the body of the text. Within the body of the text, you have a number of editing tools, and this is not unlike what you would see in a Word document. So, for example, you have bold, italics, underline, you can align text. In fact, you can take your little mouse pointer and hover over a button. It will kind of give you a short description of what it does. Bulleted list, numbered list, indent, outdent. Then you have links that you can set in your page. You can also unlink things, and you can also insert images. There's a little spell check. There's some formatting and different options. And then, of course, pretty much everything that you can get from the button bar is also available from the drop-down menu. Just different ways of accessing the same thing. So I don't really want to mess this page up for anybody, but I'm just going to type some text in here. Something like, please continue reading. Now, once you add some text, one option is to simply save it. Now, if you save it, I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to click Save Changes. You get a little message that says updated, and it bounces us back to the content tab. Okay, it will always do that. It's kind of a hassle. You save it, and then it bounces you out, and then you have to go back in. But notice a couple of things here. You've added some text, you've saved it, and it's bounced you out. Now it says pending, okay? And that's because it hasn't been approved. There's two basic options in T4. You can save, or you can save and approve. So the advantage of saving is that if you're not ready to have the page go live, you can come in and edit, save, and you can do this every day for a week, a month, a year, never make the changes live. Notice also that, you're color coded here. It's orange, it says pending, and the version is 1.1, okay? And the last modified date is updated. If we go back in and I want to do some more editing, in this case, I'm going to actually remove what I just put in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose Save and Approve. And this is important. More than one occasion, people email me and they'll say, I've edited my document, but it's still not live. And I'll go in and look, and it's like they've saved it, but they haven't approved it. So once you click Save and Approve, it's going to save it, bounce it out, and it's flagged. You bounce you out to the Content tab, but now it's been flagged as approved. And notice it's now green, status is approved. The version has jumped from 1.1 to 2.0. Okay, so whenever you see whole numbers, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, that means that content is approved. The last modified has updated. So this section is basically ready to go live, or the whole page is ready to go live with the updated section. The other thing I'll point out, I'm going to go back in. Whenever you're editing a page and you want to take a look at it before you publish it, you can click on the preview. Now you'll notice I have a publish button, but that's because I'm an administrator. Unfortunately, you guys won't have a publish button, but we can click on preview here and it will open up the page in a new tab. So you still have T4 here, but in the new tab, it's kind of loading the preview window. It takes a little while to kind of load up. So here we are in preview, and you know you're in preview because if you look at the URL, it says CMS4, somewhere in there it will say preview. You know, at this point, you can go in here, look at the page, you can click on things. Just be aware that sometimes if you click on something, it'll take a while to load. Everything looks okay. You can just go ahead and close this. Assuming that everything is fine, I could click save and approve again if I had done some editing. The other thing I'd also point out is that if you ever go in and start to edit a page and you've really kind of messed it up, which will happen to most of us at some point, and inside the editing screen, there is an undo button here. You can always click undo, but if you click undo a number of times and it doesn't clean up what you've created, the mess, honestly, what you can do is just back out. You can click cancel, don't save anything, and then start over. So that's just sort of a little tip there. Okay, so this has been saved and approved. It's ready for publication. Now the next question is, how soon will this go live? T4 is a big system. As I said, we've got 300 subsites. We have HSD, we have SSOM. Publishes take over an hour. So what happens is every 2 hours, T4 will cycle through and it will trigger a publish, and it will go through the entire hierarchy looking for any piece of content that has been approved. And once it sees the approved content, it grabs it and puts it into the publish queue. And the whole process takes about an hour, 5 hour, 10 minutes. It used to be shorter, but as the site's gotten bigger and bigger, it just takes longer. And even then it's not complete. So it will go through, grab anything that's been approved, and then put it in a publish queue. It publishes to what we call a deploy or publish folder on the T4 server. And then we have a separate copy of our script that grabs all the files that have been published and pushes them over to the live server. Also, if you're deleted things in T4, in theory, the copy of our script will delete those things from the live server. I also mentioned pending. If you've published something and it's out in the live server, and then you come back into T4 and you make it pending, that simply means it will no longer get published from T4. However, that page will still be out in the live server. And if you're in a situation where something needs to be removed from the live server, you can send us an email, or you can open a help desk ticket and say, please remove this page from the live server, and we can go ahead and clean that up. Once we're done editing here, we can either just click cancel to back out. You can always just also click on T4 up here at the very top, or even click home. There's multiple ways to do this, but you can just kind of sort of back all the way out if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and close this up about ITS. And we're going to talk about creating a new page from scratch. So let's assume, maybe this is a good place we can do this. Under the Teams folder, there's lots and lots of stuff. We have a big site. So we kind of churn here. Let's assume that we wanted to create a new page under Teams. And I'm going to close up this service desk folder here. We want to create a new page under Teams. Okay, so what we're going to do, and this is true wherever you go in your hierarchy. So if you want to create a page underneath a certain heading, you're going to go to the parent folder and then create a new section underneath the parent folder. So in this case, the parent folder is Teams. Now this is a case where we're going to come over here to the right-hand side, way over here to the Actions menu, and I'm going to click on the Actions drop-down menu. And up here at the very top, the very first option is Create Section. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Section. And we have to give this page a name. And whatever you type in here in the name field is going to be in bold print at the top of your page. So I encourage people to use a name that makes sense, that isn't too long. If you look here, any name that you give on the page is going to be, part of the menu. So For example, Microsoft Self-Service Password Reset. That's a long title. And it's fine, but just keep aware of that, especially if you have a main drop-down menu here. Sometimes there's really, in theory, there's no limit to the number of main drop-down menus pages you can have, but at some point you'll run out of room and it will wrap down to the next line. So that's, you know, aesthetically unappealing. But anyway, right now I'm going to go ahead and call this test. And the reason is I can come back later and change the name. You can change the name of any page at any time. So the name of this page is going to be test for the moment. By default, the status is approved, which means it'll be active. The other very important thing here is where it says show in navigation. By default, this is checked. That means by default, this page will become part of menu navigation. Now, we're just creating this page and you may or may not want it to be part of menu navigation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck it, because you can always come back in later and add it back in if you need to. Now below that you have advanced settings, you have meta title, description, meta keywords, etc. These are all completely optional fields. I typically don't bother with them. Some people will go ahead and put things in meta keywords and meta description, but honestly, the best formula for getting your page indexed and appear in search results is to have a good page name, and then of course if other pages are linking to it. And you know, in some cases this is important, and if it's really important, then you'll probably want to make your page part of menu navigation. We have ITS governance policy pages that get like 1 hit a year, and that's totally fine because they're documents that we need legally. We have to have them, but you know, for practical purposes, nobody is really reading them except occasionally an administrator, so that's fine. Okay, so very simply, we've given it a name. It's called test. I've unchecked show in navigation at this point, and I don't have to give it a file name or output URI. By default, this will become part of the URL. So it's going to be luc.edu ITS teams/test. So keep that in mind. That will become part of your URL. I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes, and it saves it. And as always, it'll sort of bounce us out of the menu and back. And by default, any new section or page you create will go to the bottom of the hierarchy. So right here under the parent folder, Teams, test is down here way at the bottom, and that's totally fine. Later on, I'll show you how you can rearrange pages in your hierarchy. But for now, we need to add some content to test. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and click on test. And we're going to go to the content tab. And there's nothing here because it's a brand new page. Notice you have a little green button here on the right-hand side. So we're going to click on add content. And because this is brand new, it's going to ask us to choose a template. And in T4, we call the template a content type. Now, in this case, there's 8 displayed content types. In truth, in T4, we probably have like 60 or 70 content types, but many, or I should say most of them are for special circumstances. I'd say 99% of the time, you're going to choose page content only. And even in the description here, it says, a main template to add content to a page works on all page layouts. So keep that in mind. So just going to go ahead and click on page content only. And you only have to do this the one time when you're adding content. Now you have to give a name to the piece of content, and that's just a T4 reference. We'll call it something like intro. And then subheading. As I mentioned, subheadings are optional, but I'm just going to type some text in there just to remind you what it will look like. And then here's the body of the text. Within the body of the text, you can simply type text at will. You can also copy and paste text from a Word document or a PDF, even from another web page. You could screen scrape and paste it in to your web page. If you're copying from Word, for example, one option you might consider is this drop down here is to copy and paste, is to paste as text. What this will do is it will strip out any background code that might be lurking back there. Occasionally you may copy from a Word document, put it into your web page, and the font will look slightly off. So you can avoid that by choosing paste as text. People also ask me, can I, radically change the font in T4? And the answer is no. University Marketing Communication, UMC, they control the templates. They control how the templates look, the color choices, the font choices, and things like that. The idea is they just want you to add content, create links, add images if you need to. So you can type some text in here, and what I'd like to do is show you a couple of different kind of links that you most likely will need to create within your web page. So the first link that you would probably need to create would be a link to another page within your department. So we're in under Teams. Let's say, just say I wanted to create a link to Microsoft 365. Okay, so what I can do is just type some text. Now, when you're creating your link, it's completely arbitrary what text you choose to be your link. What I encourage people to do is get away from the ubiquitous click here. And I'm not trying to shame anybody, but click here is kind of 1998 because it's not descriptive. And when search engines are kind of indexing pages, they're looking for descriptive text. Additionally, people with visual impairments use screen readers, and it's really helpful if you can give it a descriptive link. And even just the average person, if you're scanning a page, you just see click here, click here, click here, you're going to have to read a little bit harder. Whereas if you have a descriptive link that helps people find what they're looking for. So I'll just say something like, please see our MS Office 365 page. Then I'm going to highlight that text. So your link can be one word, it can be 3 words, it can be an entire sentence. Once I have that highlighted, so this is a multi-step process. You have your text, you highlight the text you want for the link. Then you come over here to the link drop-down menu, and there's multiple choices here. Notice the first one says insert section link. So you're going to link to another section within your department. So we're going to click on this. When we click on it, the T4 hierarchy menu appears, which is really handy. So in this case, I've highlighted the text. I click insert section link. I simply have to navigate down. I'm going to go to services. I'll expand services, and I'm going to come down here to Microsoft 365. At this point, I can simply click on this, and just like that, it's turned that into a link. Now, we can't test the link in the edit screen. We'll have to do that in preview, but so we'll wait a little bit. So again, it's highlight the text, go to insert section link, click on that. The hierarchy appears. You navigate down to the page you're linking to and click on it, and it's created a link for you. Another kind of page would be a link external to your site. So let's say see the New York Times website. So we want to link to the New York Times. So you simply highlight New York Times. Then we're going to come back to the drop-down link here. And instead of saying section link, we're going to link to an external site. Okay, we're going to link to an external site. We get this little pop-up window here. Now, you can copy and paste the URL from the site unless you know it. If you have the URL, you can just go ahead and type it in. Keep in mind that if you type it in without copying and pasting, you have to make sure that you have every single character correct. You know, if it's off by one character, that link's not going to work. The other thing, and by default, it grabs whatever you've highlighted, and that's the text to display. You also have the option here to have it open in a new window. So we'll just go ahead and do that. We'll say new window, and then say OK. So the URL, new window, say OK, and it's created a link to an external site. So we have a link to another ITS page. I have a link to the New York Times. Another link you might have would be a link to an email link. Sorry. So let's say you want to put a little note in there. Please send an email to rcraft@luc.edu. And the text I choose here is also arbitrary. You can display your email address if you want, or I could just put in my name, Bob Kraft. In either case, I highlight the text I've typed in, and just typing in the email address isn't enough. You have to make it a link. So you highlight the text, you come back here where it says link, and you say link to an external site, because basically you're linking to a system. This is going to be an email link. So we'll click here. Now, if you can remember this, the prefix for an email link would be mail to : and then the actual email address. That's all you have to do, and click OK. And that's created an email. What if you forget to use the protocol? So let's say I do another one. Send an email to Bob Kraft. I highlight this and choose external site. And say I just type in the email address and forget to put in the prefix mail to. If I click OK, T4 says, hey, the URL you entered seems to be an email address. Do you want to add the required mail to prefix? So basically giving you a heads up that you can be lazy, not put in the prefix, and T4 should do it for you. Okay, so we have a link to another internal page. We have a link to an external site, and we have an email link. The other link you might have would be a link to a document. Pretty much every department at Loyola has documents associated with their web pages. These might be policy pages, they might be, calendars, they might be any kind of document you can think of. And these are stored in T4. So T4 can store Word documents, PDF documents, Excel documents, and even PowerPoint documents, even though they tend to be big. And we don't store videos in T4, and I'll talk about videos in a minute, but pretty much every department has documents associated with it. And these reside in T4 and what we call the media library. The media library, unfortunately, is hidden in T4. So if you're going through the structure, you won't see the media library, but it's there. Okay, so let's assume that we want to link to a document that's in the media library. I'm just going to say something like, see our latest policy, and just leave it blank. You don't have to highlight any text. Just position the cursor in your document where you want the link at. So it could be in a sentence, it could be inside a table, it could be inside a bulleted list, but just position your cursor there. And you're not going to go to the link menu, even though you want to, okay? You're going to go to this obscure little button here next to the spell check button. It's called Insert File Link or Image, okay? So this is basically how you navigate access to media library. So you've got your cursor positioned here, and then you click on the little media button here, and the media library button opens up. Now, first go in, you'll notice that it says categorized over here on the left. Now, this part's really important. You have to expand the directory structure here, because if you come up here and you try and put something in here or look for your department stuff, you're not going to find it. You have to expand categorized. This is very important. And for almost everybody, you're going to come down to luc.edu and expand that. And so underneath categorized, and then underneath luc.edu, you can see all the department subsites. And there's a lot of them. So I'm going to navigate all the way down to ITS, because that's where I want to go. So it's, several hops in, come all the way down to ITS. And inside the media library, it doesn't say information technology services, it just says ITS. Depending on your department, it might be a full name, it might be abbreviated, but I think you'll be able to find it. So we navigate down, and I'm going to go down here to PDFs and click on PDFs. And it's important that you click on this. When you click on your subfolder, it should be highlighted, and then everything will populate on the right-hand side. If you take a quick look here at the bottom, it says showing 1 to 10 of 134 entries. So make it easy on yourself. Always, try to display at least 100. You may not have 100 in there, but try and display as many as you can at a time, so you don't even have to do a lot of scrolling. Give it a few seconds to load. So it's loaded up a bunch of PDFs here. If I go all the way to the bottom, you notice down here at the bottom, it will say showing. So this is page 1 of 2 pages. So if we needed to, we could click on 2 and that would load the next number of PDFs in this folder and populates. So here are PDFs. Now, the column over here in the middle, kind of just to the right of the middle, it says file names. But the only thing that's linkable really is the name. So every file has what we call a media name, and I'll come back to this to just sort of reinforce it. So when you upload a PDF into T4, you have to give it a media name, and that's what you're going to click on. And whatever media name you give it, that's what's going to be displayed in your link. So for example, down here, it's got a longer file name, 2020-20, blah, blah, blah. And I can't even read the whole file name. M3 timetable, or, you know, just, yeah, anyway, what's new in Microsoft Office 2016. Let's just go ahead and click on timetable 2020. Actually, I don't know if that's, we'll just say, we'll click on software. That's our latest policy on software, compatibility software. So go ahead and click on this. And just like that, it's created the link to that PDF. Now, you don't have to do this. I usually let people know it's a PDF just so they're aware. Side note, people ask me, I want the PDF to load in the browser window as opposed to, you know, trying to download it. And the truth is we can't control that on our end. That's usually typically controlled by client side, the clients, how they have their browser settings set up. So depending if you're using Chrome or Firefox or Edge, you can typically determine if the PDF is going to open or if it's going to download, or if you have Adobe Acrobat Reader already installed on your computer, things like that. Main thing is you want to find the PDF you want and link to it. So that's how you can link to a PDF in your document. It also begs the question, what if the PDF I want to link to isn't in T4 yet? It's brand new. I just got it. I want to upload it into T4 and link to it. The way that you can do that, I'm going to go down to a new line here, and I'm just going to type some text, say something like also see. I'm going to go back. You know, I've got my cursor there. I'm going to go back to the insert media button here. And obviously, I'm going to go down and make sure I'm in the correct subfolder. So I'm all the way down here and I'm in PDFs. And once I'm in my subfolder, once it gets done loading here, you'll notice on the right-hand side up at the top here, there's a green button called Add Media. I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Media. So again, it's important to navigate to the correct subfolder you're putting in the right place. Then you get to this window here and it says Add Media. It says drop files here or click to choose. You can just go ahead and click. And once you click, this will allow you to navigate down to your hard drive. You can navigate to your hard drive. You can navigate to a flash drive, to a network drive, etc. And let's just say I want to go ahead and choose this, enrolling in classes new. So I can click on this and then go ahead and click open, and it doesn't really open. Basically what that does is it uploads it to T4, and you're still not done. So here you can see the file name, enrolling in classes _ new. I'm going to go ahead and give it a media name. Now, the big advantage of giving it a media name is that this will determine how it's going to display as a link. So you can have a really obscure file name, something like 1.2.pdf. You can give it a descriptive name, or you can have a really long file name that is just insanely long. You can give it a short descriptive name. And I encourage you to give them obvious descriptive names because it makes it easier for search engines. It makes it easier for the next person that comes into T4 after you to edit and see what's going on in there. So we'll just say enrolling in classes new. Okay, then right here where it says description alt text, this is not required, but I always basically repeat the name there. And I even go one step further. I put it in the keywords thing. You don't have to, but that's what I do. Then you go ahead and click Save Changes. So what this does is you've uploaded it to T4, you've given it a media name, and now you've saved it. And all you've done is saved it to the media library. You still have not linked to it. And now if you scroll down here, because it's in alphabetical order, notice here it says enrolling in classes new. Not only does it have a media name, it also has like a little sub name here, which I think is also helpful when you're looking for stuff. Now that you've got it here, you can go ahead and click on it. And now you're basically created a link to your new document. And again, this is, you don't have to do this, but I always just say, hey, there's a PDF here. So I hope that makes sense. Again, you'll go into your media library, you'll navigate down to your correct subfolder. You'll click on Add Media, navigate down, find your file, upload it, give it a media name, a descriptive name, and once it's in there, you can click on it. So those are the multiple links we have. A link to another page within your department. You have a link to an external site. You have an email link, and you have 2 links to PDFs. Now, I should point out that when we first started using T4 12 years ago, the PDF folder or subfolders became a catch basin for any kind of document. So it's not limited to PDFs. You can put any kind of file in a PDF folder in T4. So many PDF folders might have PDFs, but they might also have Word documents. They might have Excel documents. So that's just something to be aware of. It doesn't have to be a PDF to be in the PDF folder. So since we're speaking in the media library, the other thing that exists in the media library are images. And you know, if you're brand new to web pages, just keep in mind that when you're looking at a web page, even though it looks like the image is sort of embedded in the page, it's just referenced. It's pulling a file that's referenced from elsewhere and appearing in the page. So we want to go ahead and insert an image in here. And again, you would position the cursor where you need it. You click on the Insert Media, and in this case, once again, you would scroll down and navigate down. And notice under ITS, we have a bunch of subfolders, but there is one called Images. So I can click on Images because I want an image this time. And if you have a big department and you have or maybe not even a big department, but if you have a lot of documents and if you have a lot of images, you can create subfolders, and I'll show you how to create subfolders a little bit later, but you can create subfolders, and it's kind of a way to categorize things and put them into your neaten things up so that you can find them easily. Here, I'll click on picture of Harry. So there's Harry. So now we've inserted an image into our document, and I can tell you just by looking at it that this image is really big without even previewing it. There is an easy way to resize images, and it's not uncommon that people will get big images and put them into T4, but that doesn't mean they're going to look good on the web page. So what I can do is I can simply double click the image. When I double click the image, it will get the set media attributes. And again, here you have like 6 different field options, but really the only thing you have to typically worry about is the width, because if you change the width, T4 will automatically resize the height, or manage the height and resize the photo so it doesn't get distorted. A typical web page at Loyola is probably going to be 300 to 400 pixels wide, so you can do something like 300 pixels. You can always change it, say 300 pixels, and click OK, and it automatically resizes the image. Although it doesn't look like it resized it that much. So try 250. Say OK, and we can always preview this. So keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that think about how big the image is in terms of bytes. So it's really a good idea to keep images under 100K, because really big images will slow down your web page, particularly on mobile devices. Occasionally I'll be looking at somebody's webpage and it's just churning. I'll go into T4, and they have an image in there that's like 10 megabytes or 30 megabytes, and it doesn't need to be that big. You can resize images using Adobe Photoshop, and I know not everybody has that, but you can also use Microsoft Paint or almost any kind of editing program. You can resize them, and you can make them JPEGs if they're like PNG files are really big. The idea is to make them, and it's typically not going to affect how the image looks that much, just by sort of resizing it and reducing the data size. So that's something to keep in mind. So we've got links in here. We've got this image of Harry. The other thing that is really nice in T4 is that it's very easy to create tables. In the old days when I created tables, it was a lot of coding, not particularly complex coding. It was just putting a bunch of tags in. In T4, you can position your cursor where you want it in the page. You can go to the table drop down here, and then you can say insert table with column headings or insert table with column and row headings. Okay, so what does this mean? What T4 will do, and this is how UMC set this up, marketing. They set this up so that if you create a table with column headings, basically at the top, it will be reverse shading. So it will be white text on a dark gray background. And the other option would do column and row headings so that both the top of the columns and then the left side of the rows would also have reverse shading. For now, I'll just go ahead and say, let's just do column headings. And then you can just choose a table size, 5 columns by 5 rows. Because the nice thing, I think I missed a row. The nice thing is you can go back in and add rows and columns at will. But for right now, it creates a template and it puts some placeholder text in each column. So it says column 1, column 2. So you can go in there and then type in anything you want. Actually have to be in the table. So I just go in there and type some text. And you can just, get rid of the placeholders, put in your own text, and you can just jump from column to column and just type things in there as needed. You can position your cursor anywhere in there and add text, and it will expand the table accordingly. Once you're done, if you decide that you need to go back in and you need to add a row or a column or to delete a row or a column, you can do that by just positioning your cursor appropriately in the table. Position your cursor, then right-clicking, and you can say, okay, I need a row after this. You can also say, hey, I need a column after this. Now that column I added after it is teeny tiny, but if you get in there and add some text, it will expand. Same thing, you can delete things. You can simply right-click and you can say, okay, I need to delete this column. So you can go back in and add columns and rows, delete columns and rows at will. There are advanced features. You can do things such as merge cells and split cells. I never do that, but you have the ability to do that. Again, it can get a little murky, and if you sort of play around with that and it becomes problematic, you can always try undoing what you've done using the undo button. The other thing I would point out is that if you're comfortable with HTML, you can click on Tools and you can do Source Code. And inside here, you can tweak your code in here. The only time I ever really use source code is if I'm trying to fix something. If I'm trying to delete something and it's deleting too much, or it's not getting what I need right, or something looks off, sometimes it's easier to go into source code and fix it and then click OK to get out of there. So we've created this handsome document. And I should also point out that you do have these paragraph formattings, heading 2, 3, 4. You also have, some things over here you can kind of play around with, but I don't typically do that. I'm just mostly worried about going in and just putting text in maybe bolding the text. I don't use underline even though it's available, because if people see an underlined text in a web page, they think it's a link, and then they think it's a link that's not working. So I avoid underlining stuff, but you can use bold and italics. We've created this handsome page. We have not practiced safe computing. I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes just so I save it. It says pending. It's version 0.1. I'm going to go back in. Okay, takes us back into the edit screen. And again, there's things here like you don't have to worry about publish date, add container, set container width. That's kind of advanced features that you don't have to worry about. You've chosen page content only. That's the template. We've added this text. Let's go ahead and preview it. Click on preview. Give it a minute to load. So here's our beautiful page. The name of the page is test. There you can see the subheading. You can see the text, our links, beautiful photo of Harry, and our table down below with the reverse shading. Okay. You can check your links in preview. Bear in mind that it's slow because it's in preview. So we're trying to get to the MS Office 65 page, 365. That worked. We can just click the back button to go back to the preview screen. Once we get back there, we can check a couple of the other links. We've got the New York Times website. This should open in a new tab, and voila, it does. Because that links works. We've got the email link. You can see, excuse me, that's working. We've got links to a PDF. You can see it's trying to download the PDF, so that works. And there's the image, and then of course there's the table. Everything looks okay. We'll go ahead and close this. Takes us back here. If we think everything is fine here, we can go ahead and click Save and Approve. And now this has been flagged for publication. Now, a couple of things. Let's say that I decide I want to change the page name. What can I do? Okay, and go to the General tab, and here's where it says Test. Okay, I can just go ahead and give it any name I want. Let me call it the Bob page. And let's say that I wanted to, and I'm going to make that uppercase right there, Bob page. Okay, let's say that I wanted to, well, let's just go ahead and change the name first. So we click Save Change. Okay. So there is, now you can see it says the Bob page, and even from here, I could preview this if I wanted to. And come over here. I don't have to go into the edit screen to preview. I can preview from pretty much anywhere. And give it a second to load. So you can change any name, and this happens a lot when departments will completely change the name of their sites. Okay, so there's the new name, Bob page. That looks okay. The other thing I'll point out is that we can now, if we wanted to, we could add this to navigation, and we could rearrange it in the hierarchy. So before we add it to navigation, let me go ahead and click on, we're gonna rearrange it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the parent page. The parent page for this, all these pages here is Teams. And keep in mind that not every page is part of this menu navigation, but it's still gonna be in the hierarchy of T4. We're gonna go to Teams, and there's the General tab, and then there's the Content tab. But over here under More, it says Child Sections, and I think that's fairly self-explanatory. We'll click on Child Sections, and we can see 10 listings. There's 19, so we'll just say, okay, we want to see all of them. So here's the 10 listings, including home top down here and June 10th test page. Okay, we want to put the Bob page up at the top. So what I can do is I can simply click over here in the little cross, and I can drag the Bob page up. Let's say we want to put it right below application development and systems integration. So I just drag and drop it up there. Then the important part here is click Save Changes. That will lock it into place. So now you can see below Teams, it's application and development, and then the Bob page. Now let's say we want to go ahead and put this into menu navigation. So I can click on the page here so that you can put things in and out of menu navigation as needed. Particularly if you're creating a new page and you might even want to, you can preview it, but you might even want to see it live and before you add it to menu navigation. But you go ahead and click Show in Navigation and click Save Changes. And now you'll notice it's gray shaded. That's your visual cue that this is now going to be part of menu navigation. And let's say I wanted to preview this. And when the preview screen pulls up, over here on the left-hand side now, it's the Bob page. You notice it's under Teams, and there you can see the Bob page. Even if we click on the Teams page, slow churning here. So even on the Teams page, you can see that Bob page is part of menu navigation now. Okay, so we're done previewing. We'll go close this. Now, of course, let's say that it hasn't gone live yet. You say, okay, you know what? I'm not sure I want this to go live yet. What can I do? What you can do is come back in here at the General tab where it says Status. You can change the status to pending, okay? Now, very, very important here. Notice that one of the options is inactive, okay? Inactive is kind of misleading, and we've actually, logged some suggestions with T4 saying that you should change the name of this because many, many people think inactive means it's just not going to get published. If you choose inactive, it gets flagged for deletion. And what happens is once a week, we do a manual purge of the system, and any item that is flagged as inactive will get deleted from the system and we can't get it back. It's gone. The trash can is empty. So if you're not sure, change it to pending, okay? You can change it to pending, click Save Changes, and it will change colors to orange. Okay, notice here it's Bob's page. Bob page is now orange. That means, and if we go back in here and we click on it, the status is pending. That means it's not going to get published. Even if you go to content, and this is green right here, if the page itself is pending, it doesn't matter what, everything here could be green, but if the page itself is pending, it's not going to go live. And then, of course, finally, if you say, hey, you know what, I do want this page deleted, you can say, make it inactive. And again, be careful with this and save it. It will change the color coding to red. And that's not always easy. This, you may not see the difference between orange and red here, but now the Bob page is inactive, which means next time we do a purge, this page will get deleted. So always keep that in mind. Okay, so kind of a whirlwind tour of editing an existing page and creating a new page from scratch, and creating some basic things inside the page, linking to other documents, creating an email link, adding an image. Now, when we were in the media library, I said that you can also create new subfolders within your media library. There's two ways to get into the media library. You can be in your edit screen, and in your edit screen go all the way in, or from the main T4 page up here, you can go to content, and you can go to media library. Okay, and then here you can see the T4 media library. Now, the one big difference is when you go in this way, you'll notice here for the folders and subfolders, there's a little settings button. So this is not available to you when you go in through the edit screen. Okay, keep that in mind. But within here, you could then go in and navigate down to whatever subfolder you need to. So let's say I'm in ITS and I'm under images. I can create even under images, you can see there's all kinds of subfolders going all the way down. Once you're in here, if you wanted to create a new folder, so let's say I want to create a folder called Harry, I can navigate down, make sure I'm in the right folder, parent folder, And I want to create a child folder here. It says create child category. Okay, so say create child category, and then you just give it a name. And the workflow, what that means is the permissions are going to be inherited from the parent. So obviously, if you have access to the images folder, you'll have access to the subfolder you just created. And then here, you can see we now have our Harry folder. Of course, if you click on it, there's nothing in there because it's brand new, but that's how you can do that. Also, people will say, well, I have 10 new images or 10 new PDFs I want to upload to the media library. Once we get them in there, I'll click to them, I'll link to them from different pages. Is there any way to upload 10 files at once? The answer is no. You have to upload each one individually and give each one a media name within T4, so keep that in mind. The other thing I would mention and recommend is that you get rid of old stuff. When I go through T4 and I'm helping people with T4 pages, there's just a huge amount of stuff going back 10, 12 years that is no longer needed. Images of people that have left the university back in, 2011, old documents and policies that are, 10 years out of date. Nobody ever looks at them. So I really, really encourage people to delete old stuff and clean out the media library, because there's just a bunch of stuff there. And you can delete things easily in the media library. You can simply go in here where it says actions. You can simply say delete. And in fact, if you're in a folder, you could actually, put a check mark next to multiple files and do bulk action, say bulk action delete, and it will say delete media, and you say yes. And notice it doesn't remove it from the folder. It simply marks it as inactive. The next time I do a manual purge of the system, this will get cleared out. The other thing I'll point out is under, let's see if I can do this right. If you're ever curious about a document, if it's being used. So for example, let me load this up here. And honestly, to see if a document is being used, you can do it, but it's slow and painstaking. Let's say, is Harry the Dirty Dog being used anywhere? I can go to edit. And then when I go to edit, notice there's a usage tab here. And the usage tab will tell you if a page is using this document or image. So in this case, we know that this image is being used in the test page that I just created. Now the test page has been flagged as inactive, but it's still in T4. So it's letting you know that this file is being used. So, if you want to be really careful, say, oh, I don't want to delete something that might be linked from somewhere. You can always go into edit the file in the media library and check the usage. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. Okay, so that's just a little more information on T4. Now, we only have about 20 minutes left. I'd like to talk about home pages because they're a little bit of a separate animal in T4. And let's just take a look at the ITS homepage. And this is typical of a lot of home pages. There's a lot of elements here that you may or may not think about. By default, you've got your main menu pages here, about ITS, team support, and so on. And you can see them here, about ITS. So anything that is under the parent page that has been made part of menu navigation is going to appear as a drop-down on the home page here, okay? And let me take a moment to talk about the new template, since you're probably wondering about this. We have a new template has been rolled out for the last year or longer. And so School of Education, School of Law, Parkinson, a number of schools already have the new template. And people will often say, hey, when are we going to get the new template? That is completely out of the control of ITS. That is being rolled out by University Marketing and Communication. I don't have their timetable. I know that they were targeting some of the bigger schools and the newer sites. So like, new president and pre-health and things like that. Those are all put into the new template. And it looks radically different, obviously. It's, maroon and black and gray, and just the way the pages look are different. But it still functions in T4 basically the same way. I mean, if you go inside T4, in here, you wouldn't know if something's in the new template or the old template, okay? And you do have, side menu navigation. So you still have menu navigations on the home page, and you also have side menus there. But so keep that in mind. And I don't really talk about the new template homepage in this demo. And I was consulting with my colleagues in marketing and saying, going forward in the rest of the year, we're going to have to basically set up two kind of demos, for one for the old template, one for the new. If your department is in a new template, you send me an email. The people in marketing have created some cheat sheets for the new templates based on your department, because each iteration of the new template has been slightly different. So, I think School of Law may have been the first one, or Parkinson, and then they've refined the template a little bit. So we have some cheat sheets available that we can forward to you. For now, let's just take a look at the ITS homepage. So on the ITS homepage, you have a background image that almost never ever changes. And this is different based on whatever department you're in. There's a bunch of different background pages. So HR may look something like this. And of course, history has their own unique background page. It looks like a map. If for any reason your department's unhappy with their background image, you can contact UMC marketing, and they can discuss with you possibilities of different background. But anyway, that never changes, rarely. Your drop-down menus are kind of determined by what pages you want as part of the drop-down. And then, of course, down here at the bottom, you have your footer way at the bottom. Almost nothing here ever changes. It'll have an address and an email link and maybe a copyright and disclaimer. The only reason this might change is if your department moves, from one campus to another, or within the campus to a new building. So what's left? Well, in ITS, we have this service portal link, but that's, that never changes. What changes mostly is the content within this. And if you look, particularly if you look at like history or ITS, you can think of a couple of main elements here. So you have a home left column, you have a home right column. In the middle, you have home news. And up here at the top, you have this little 2-column thing that might be labeled as home top or home center. If you look at history, it's the same sort of thing. You have home left and you have home right. In the middle, you have home news. And then here we have something that's called home top or home content. And the only difference between history and ITS is that this thing spans 3 columns, and in ITS, it spans 2 columns. If you look at HR, same sort of idea here. Home left, home right, home news in the middle, and then home top or home center spanning 2 columns. So what goes into these columns? Here in ITS, if you look down here, you can see home left, home right, home news, home center. You can also see things like custom CSS and footer, and some things that may not even be used on the home page, but you don't really have to worry about that. You're going to focus on these sort of things. So if we look at home left, and within home left, let's get this going here. If you look at home left here, there's multiple boxes. So there's a system status box, there's a top 5 service box with expandable little boxes here, okay, and then more boxes. So if we go to the home left section, and if you go to content, here you can see multiple pieces of content. And if you look carefully, you'll notice that these content types, the templates that are used on the homepage, are not page content only. These are all using either feature link or feature code. Okay, and feature link is one of those templates that's used on the homepage. And so if we look under system status, click on this, and the title is system status. So that's right here. There's a blurb of text that goes right here. There's a limit to how much text. I forget what it is, but it'll let you know if you try to put in too much text. And in this situation, this link here will, if you click on system status or view, it will take you to another page. So notice it's taking you to something as Loyola, but it's not luc.edu. It's Loyola University Chicago .statuspages.io. Not even sure what that is. So instead of going to an internal page by clicking on this, they instead put in an external URL, which is totally fine. Now, if you wanted to add an image to that little box, you could say select media, and it would take you into the media library, and you could actually select an image to put in there. The other thing I point out is that it's got an action link. What's an action link? Right here where it says view. Down here, the action link is learn more and learn more. Depending on where you're at, well, you might say learn more. There's a lot of different action links here. You don't even have to have the action link. You could forego it. But notice it's like register, register now, visit our blog, watch video, etc. Okay, so that's what they've chosen in there. And whenever you create a new item in the home page, okay, by default, it will go to the bottom of the column. So if you needed to, you could simply drag and drop the new item up, and then of course, click save to lock it into place. The one thing I'd point out here is that this is a really cool box, and a number of departments have them. And I like it because you can pack a lot of information that's easy to access from the homepage. You don't have to drill down or even go to a drop-down menu if you know it's there. But that is code only. So what does that mean? That means you probably won't be able to access this. It's typically admin only because it's all code and it's easy to mess up. So typically what we do is we work with the department and say, okay, tell me what links you want or what names you want for the links and what pages they need to link to. Then we'll go in, or UMC will put in the code for you and set that up. So that's very typical of what we would do on a home page. And notice here we have home left and we have home right, but it's completely arbitrary what you put in your home left or home right column. They're just basically same idea, just one's on the left, one's on the right. I mean, you can see these all look pretty similar. You know, frankly, the ITS homepage is a little bit boring. If you look at something like HR, they have boxes with images. Oh, and I should also mention this little tab here where it says system status right here, or top 5 services. Inside here, where it says tab, that's where you can put in, you can give this tab, you can put in a tab name for that box. It can be anything you want. So notice here the tab is tech onboarding, and they're not even using a blurb of text. They just have a headline and they have a link. So that is named in tab. And sometimes if you're not sure, you can maybe look at another piece of content and see what they've done there. Let me back out of here. The other thing I'd point out is that when you're working with home left or home right, or home news, you typically can't preview it as a home page, which is unfortunate. This kind of exists as a separate section. What typically happens when we publish the home page is that all of these separate elements, home left, home right, home news, background image, footer, all that gets pulled together into the home page published. So this, we're previewing one content piece in home left, and that's all you can see. So if you add something new here and you want to see what it's going to look like, you're going to have to back out and then preview the home page. Let me go ahead and back out of that. Now, if you look at, say, human resources, so they're basically doing the same thing. They have some kind of the same kind of boxes. You know, additionally, they have something here like a calendar feed. Okay, not everybody knows this, but on the Loyola homepage, there is a calendar below the fold here. Okay, and departments and organizations can post items on the Loyola calendar. They have to submit it. There's a submit an event button here. And when you submit the event, you can indicate, is this for students only? Is it for history students only? Is it for staff only? Or you can say, is it for the entire university? goes into a queue. Someone in the UMC looks at it and approves it, and it gets added to the calendar on any given day, week, or month. You can also, there's other calendars. So not everybody, but a lot of departments have their own calendar. And in this case, human resource pretty much always has something going on. So what they've done is they've set up a box here that pulls the calendar feed for HR only. So you won't see system-wide university items here, but you'll see HR items. Same thing with history. They do something like that. I thought they did. In any case, oh, here, they have just a little calendar box. They say, hey, just look at the whole month rather than having a daily feed here. And then, you know, of course, it's May, so things are quieting down, but you get the idea. And let's just take, since I'm talking about history, because their site is actually, you know, very visually interesting, because they have photos in their boxes, which just makes it more visually interesting. And we can also talk for a few seconds about a couple other things. So I said home left and home right. Most of the time you're going to be using feature link content type. And again, if you're not sure, you can kind of look at what maybe somebody else did before you that was setting up those pages. Let me go back in here and close up ITS and do a little scroll down to history. And just talk about the maroon buttons there for a second. So under history, and you look at the history page, you'll notice they've got these maroon buttons that been pretty ubiquitous on a lot of department homepages for like the last, 5 years. And notice the maroon buttons say things like make a gift, join our email list, apply now. Under ITS, I don't think we have any on our homepage, although we have on our subpages, we have something called ITS Service Catalog button. So, but here you have these maroon buttons. So if we go into history and we scroll down here and we click on home left, okay, and we go to the content tab, and of course, here's our multiple pieces of content. Notice that a lot of these content types, there's feature link, but there's also recruitment links. So the make a gift button is what we call a recruitment link, okay? So this is sort of standalone. Join our email list is standalone. And then you've got three of these clustered together, apply now, request information, contact. So I can tell you right now that this is one piece of content, this is one piece of content, and then the three together is one piece of content, and just because I've been doing this long enough. So let's look at recruitment links right here, the third one. That's the three that are clustered together right here. Apply now, request information. This particular template allows you to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maroon buttons all at once. You can ignore them or you can use one or more. So the piece of content is named recruitment links, and that's an arbitrary name you give it. But notice there's an apply now link. You could have it linked directly to a page section, which they've done. It goes to admission, undergraduate admission. There is an apply now external link, and that's not being used. Okay, then there's a request information link, okay, right here. Okay, that's going to history undergraduate request information. And again, they added this by just, clicking on here and navigating to the history page, history undergraduate request information. Right here, there's a give to Loyola option that's not being used. Then below that, there's contact us, and that's being used, okay? Below that is visit us, and then there's some custom links. So visit us is not being used. So they've activated apply now, request information, and contact us. And they did it by simply choosing to have it navigate to a page. If you didn't want to have it navigate to an internal page, you could put in an external link here for whatever reasons, okay? Let's back out of that for a second. So those three buttons right here. Notice to join our email list, okay? So right here where it says join our email list, this uses the same recruitment links template, okay? Doesn't use apply now, it doesn't use request information. and this is the fun part, it takes the Give to Loyola option, but here you have the ability to change the name of that button to anything you want. So here they said, instead of Give to Loyola text, instead of Give to Loyola, it says join our email list. So they're completely hijacking the button, and that's totally fine, and putting in whatever text they want. And then you can put whatever link you need to put in here. So here it's going to a Google Docs form. Okay, so you could say, give to Yvonne, and then you could have your homepage, your personal homepage here, and it would, create a maroon button. And that's what we did right here. So on our subpages here, we put in this content type recruitment link, but instead of a recruitment link, we took the make a gift button and changed it to a link that goes to the ITS service catalog. So anyway, that's the idea behind that. And I don't want to overwhelm you with too much homepage stuff, but also keep in mind that if you look here on history, there's a template here which will allow you to put in links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, also LinkedIn, and a bunch of other social media. So under history, this is just an example home right. We go to content, social networking links. So, and this is really easy. If you choose the social networking links content type, it gives you the option to put in calendar link, RSS links, Ignatian link, Facebook link, Twitter, YouTube, Flickr, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, blogs, Google+, etc. So, and all you have to do is put in the URL that you need there, because a lot of departments now have Facebook presence and YouTube presence and things like that. So that will allow you to put in, multiple icons in that little box. Finally, the other two items here are home news, and they pretty much work like the home left, home right column. Anything that you put into home news is going to appear in that little box. And let's go ahead and take a look at that real quickly. So notice that under home news, these are all feature links, feature link, feature link, feature link. And this is what we're looking at here. And in this case, the very top one gets the image gets a wide display, but all the news items below that, the image is smaller and it's kind of pushed over to the left. But each one of these news items has an image, which is optional. It has a headline. It has a blurb of text. You can't put too much text in there. But then they typically have link options. And these all say read more, but they don't have to say read more. So the headline itself is clickable, and then the read more, they will both go to the same place. So Dr. Hayes Faculty Spotlight. So here's the title. It's got a blurb of text. And instead of choosing add section link, they just put in the full URL. And this is history, so they could have navigated through here, but instead they're just put in the full URL, which is absolutely fine. They chose read more, and then they put in the image for that. And that's really about it. Now, keep in mind that anytime you add a news item, by default, it will go to the bottom of this long list of items here. They have 42 entries. They should probably delete some of these, but they have 42 entries, and by default, we go to the bottom, so we need to drag the latest item up to the top. And then the last thing I point out is up here is that depending on how your homepage has been set up, this will be home content or home top. And in this particular case for the history department, let's see, I think it's home top. Let's take a look. And this is, well, this one's expired. So it's this one, Public History Alum Nona Store, which is what we're looking at right here. They're not using the tab right here. That's, that's totally fine. They don't have to. We use the tab. We have a little welcome here in our tab. But you have your big panoramic image here, and this is a very specific dimensions. If you need to change your panoramic image, and even this is very specific, we can help you with the image with here, a small amount of blurb space text, and then of course it's clickable. So if you look in here you can see the blurb of text, the title, and the panoramic image, and of course, the external, well, actually the internal link, but they're using the full URL of what it links to. Okay, so this has been kind of a whirlwind tour of T4. I've thrown a lot of information at you. If you have questions after this, you can send me an email. If you need to be added to T4, send me an email and let me know what department you need access to. I will also point out that on the T4 landing pages, we have some information here that's valuable. Some of it is old and needs to be removed. We'll hope to get to that this summer. Couple of important things I will point out to you. We do have a software that navigates, crawls our website and identifies by department broken links and misspelled words and delivers a report weekly. And you can, the person that manages that is Jill Gretsch on the UMC web team. And we also have Google Analytics. Every page that's pushed out of the main site has a Google Analytics tag in it. They can generate Google reports for you. So if you need to get Google Analytics, or if you'd like to get weekly site improve reports, let me go in here and see what we've got here. So under /web, the web team right now, and this needs to be updated, is myself and my colleague Matthew. We have an additional person that just started, Anya. But under the University Marketing Communications, Jill Gretsch, Director of Digital Strategy. Jill can get you Google Analytics. Can generate weekly, monthly, annual reports. I don't know if you want weekly reports, but it's very useful. You can see how many hits your pages are getting. And also the Site Improve, which will help you identify pages with broken links, because there's always broken links. And there's always misspelled words. So that's somebody you should contact for those things. So again, Jill Gretsch, and that's under /web. Some of this other stuff you're not going to be using, and I forgot to mention the thing about videos, we don't upload videos into T4. We encourage people, you can have YouTube videos and we can link to them, but we have an internal streaming server and it uses something called Panopto. So you can even just, if you go to ITS, or you can do a search for Panopto, but there's basically the idea is you load your video in Panopto. It's a Loyola server and it's powerful and streaming. And then within T4, you can link to it. You can just have a link that goes to the video, or you could even embed the video. And that's always a possibility. We do something like that. You can just have a little iframe that shows the video in the web page. So again, my apologize for running over. Thank you for joining the demo this morning. And if you have further questions, please drop me an email. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.